Hey guys! A lot has happened since we last met. I watched this movie called To All the Boys I Loved Before, and I read the book a couple years ago, and I don't remember loving it, so I wasn't expecting much, and then I fell in love with it, and then I felt the need to make this video called Lara Jean Being Relatable for nearly 7 minutes. I think it's safe to say that it went insane a little bit. I started out with almost 100 subscribers, I think. Now there are suddenly 800 of you. And that number keeps climbing, so the pressure's on a little bit. I feel like all of you have shown up to my house for a dinner party, but I have no idea what you like to eat. And as it is, I didn't really know what I was doing with this channel. And my life's a little crazy right now. You can't see, but my room is a mess because I'm packing to move into college in a week. It's a lot, it's a lot, it's a lot. I am just gonna continue what I was planning on doing with this, which was I'm gonna try out a bunch of different kinds of videos. Like, I have a lot planned. Book talks. I've read about 5 books this summer, and I really want to talk about 2 of them. I'm filming another video that's kind of like, not a DIY, but kind of like I'm painting a bunch of old canvases to hang up in my dorm room. Just like anything that you want to see, let me know in the comments. Like, if you want me to do, like, I don't know, a get to know me tag or a Q&A, I don't know. And those little kinds of videos, like the Lara Jean one, like the 100 ones, like those will definitely keep coming every once in a while. Like, there's stress relief for me, so. But today's gonna be about writing because that's like my thing. I got an anonymous question on Tumblr from a young writer, and they were like, do you have any advice for me? And I've gotten questions like this before, but like particularly now, like I was like, I'm not qualified to answer this question. Like, I have no idea. And like, why are they asking me? And what do I do? And I think the reason I felt like that is recently I've been feeling kind of like lost a little bit. Like, I've been writing, but like everything I write, I'm kind of like, I don't know, like, I don't know. So I feel like making this video and kind of like reflecting on what I've learned will kind of help refocus myself. So the first part of this video will kind of be advice that I've received from other writers or things I've learned from other writers. And the second part will be advice that I've received or seen other young writers receive that I don't agree with, that I kind of think is bullshit and that you shouldn't listen to. And the third part of the video will be kind of me trying to impart wisdom on you that I've learned over my, I wrote my first novel when I was 14, so it's been roughly 5 years that I've really been intense about the writing thing. But I've always written. If you're not familiar with my writing, I'm gonna link some stuff in the description, so if you read that and you don't like it, feel free to not listen to a word that I say. And if you read it and you like it, then feel free to keep listening to me, or you can not read it at all. I'm sorry, my 13-year-old sister is so fucking loud. I don't even know if you can hear her, but she just came home and it's very obvious. She brought her friend. They're so loud. Laurel? Or if you don't want to read any of those and you just are gonna blindly leap into this and listen to me regardless, then that's great too. Because again, a lot of this is like stuff that I've heard from other people. I don't have wisdom. I'm 19 years old. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm not focused on publication at the current moment. I mean, I'm writing a novel that I hope one day to be published, but I'm not like actively publishing anything. Like, I have been published in the past, but like nothing recently. Not novels, like short stories in a poem. So I'm gonna start with a character named Bob, the fiction writing teacher, in a short summer program that I went to in upstate New York at Skidmore College a few years ago. Some of the stuff that he said has stuck with me. I had it in the notes on my phone from like 2015, but since I film my videos with my phone, we're gonna check it out on my laptop. 1. I always start my novels with some philosophical bullshit and go from there. I think that's valid. One of my friends, Nick, asked, what do I do if I can't come up with ideas? And he said drugs. but don't listen to that one. That's not valid. This isn't advice, but it's a stirring question. Do plumbers get plumber's block the same way writers get writer's block? That's definitely some unusual advice, but I think there's value in the philosophical bullshit and go from there, because actually most of my novels, I write fantasy, start with a made-up religion, like a mythology that I make up. My heroes and my villains kind of stem from the same belief system, so philosophical bullshit. Other stuff that I learned at that Writers Institute was, one, this is kind of more personal, that I'm not weird. I never had any writer friends growing up, so like I always kind of thought that like I was kind of weird, like they didn't want to hear about what novel I was writing, or you know, like I felt very kind of isolated going to that 2-week period with just like, it was like 35 other writers. It was like so eye-opening to me and like so comforting. I'm like, I'm not weird. I'm not like, I don't know. You're not weird. There is kind of a writer stereotype, but hardly anybody fits that stereotype. So another thing that I've learned from older, more experienced writers is it's just as important to give criticism as it is to be able to receive it. I think the first thing that a lot of writers will tell you will be to be open to criticism. And that's true. You get so much criticism when you're writing. That's like half of writing. Just listening to what's wrong with your writing and then improving. You definitely have to change how you look at criticism. You have to view it as a gift rather than criticism. And that's something I learned from dance, not from writing. I grew up a competitive dancer. They always tell you, like, say thank you after the teacher corrects you, because that's a correction and that's valuable. Yeah, that carried over into writing for me. So going into it, I kind of already knew how to take criticism, but being able to give it is just as important. Like, I started out on Wattpad. When I was 14, 15, I was writing my novel. It was called Firebird, and I was posting it on Wattpad, and it got about 10,000 reads, I think, by the time I deleted it. And I deleted it because I got older, and I was like, I don't really want that on the internet. But when it was happening, like, I was getting all these experienced writers, and since it was online, they didn't know that I was 14, 15, and they were leaving paragraphs of advice and praise and criticism on every chapter that I posted. And obviously, I was like, wow, like these people really care about my writing. I immediately felt compelled to read what they were writing. One of them happened to be a woman who's much older, and by now on Wattpad, her books just have millions of reads now. But back then, they didn't have very many. She came to me and she was like, hey, like, it's really good that you are giving me criticism as well. And that's so important because you need to be able to find what's wrong, not wrong, but like what can be improved in other people's writing in order for you to be able to improve your own. It's like this constant give and take between writers. You give criticism, you receive it. You give criticism, you receive it. You receive criticism, you give it. It's like an exchange. It's like exchanging of goods. Fair trade. Because it ties back to what my dance teacher said, it's a gift. So the next part of this video is kind of gonna be advice that I hear a lot that I think is bullshit. And the number one piece of advice that is so passed around and so common and is just such bullshit is write what you know. Mostly because it's misinterpreted. But it's also kind of bullshit. Like, okay, the reason that this is a problem, first of all, is there are two reasons. One, it's discouraging because young writers hear that, and obviously when you're young, you don't know much of anything, so write what you know is kind of intimidating. You feel like you don't have the right to explore, and I don't like that. And two, it's often used as an excuse even by older writers, to not write diversely and to not write diverse characters. So I started realizing that this advice was mostly bullshit when I was about, I'd say, 16. I felt a lot of pressure to get out there and live my life and learn more so I would be able to write more from what I know. But I was bedridden. I kind of started rebelling against this idea that I only had to write what I know because it wasn't that I was rebelling against the idea that I could only write what I know. It's that I realized that I know a lot more than I thought I did. I realized the depth of my own empathy, and that allowed me to slip into the minds of many different characters, even though I had never experienced anything like what they had. And that led me to write a book, or part of a book, well, let's say manuscript / work in progress because it was a mess, called The Death Cheaters Club. And I've since taken it down because, again, I wrote it when I was 15, 16. I was kind of embarrassed by it by the end. And also there are other reasons. And if you want me to rant about Wattpad one day, definitely let me know because there's a lot there to rant about. The book was about 6 different characters, all had near-death experiences, and they all ended up in a support group together. It had 6 different points of view, all from first person, all from vastly different characters. And it ended up doing really well. And I realized, like, hey, I don't have to go out there and live the life that everybody else can because I was very sick. I'm chronically ill. The elephant in the room, I'm chronically ill. Yeah, over those years that I had to spend in my room pretty much, I was still writing a lot because I realized I'm so much more capable and I know so much more than I thought I did. So, write what you know is kind of stupid because you need to be able to like step out of your comfort zone. You need to be able to write about people and write about things and places that you've never seen. And even if you haven't been able to be out there and experience the world, kind of like YOLO, like people these days are so ridiculous. They think they need to travel the world and save humanity and cure cancer in order to have a valuable thing to say. And that's not true. I was just like some girl who couldn't leave her room for like months, and I was still writing valuable stories that people really connected with and really valued. So, don't listen to write what you know. The other piece of advice that I've heard a lot is like, you need to always be writing, like always have a journal, always write. You know, you have to write like a certain number of words or pages a day. Like, no, don't listen to that. Like, write consistently, obviously, but not all of us are the same. Like, I honestly have so much pressure on myself to write all the time, and that's not how I operate necessarily. Like, I'll have a week where I don't write at all, and then I'll have a week where I write 10,000 words in that week. Obviously, you need to write, but you don't need to always be writing. Like, to a certain degree, you do have to live your life. You do have to experience things.
I think you should experience it. You always say I want to experience things, but I don't think you actually want to experience.
So just don't, like, put too much pressure on yourself to always be writing. Write as much as you can. Write as often as you can. I bought this little tiny notebook, and it's much easier because I was traveling a lot. It was much easier for me to just write down any random thought that I had, any compelling thought, any idea, and those are really important to keep track of because you don't want them to get lost. Mine often get lost.
I forgot to say this when I was filming, but definitely keep like a real journal. Like that was like my travel size. This is the real one. You don't have to write down like what you do every day because every time like I try to do that, it ends up being very boring. Like, dear diary, today I went to school. Like the first couple days, like I can always like think of something interesting, but then after a while it's like, oh, it's the same. So just like write down like random thoughts, feelings, vent, like get your feelings out. Like that's very important. Like because you never know like when that could turn into like story inspiration. And even if it doesn't, it's good practice and it's good emotional like and mental health. Yeah. Okay. Glad we had this talk.
The notes on my phone, I use a lot. Like, you don't have to write in the traditional way all the time. The last part of this video will be a couple pieces of advice just from my brain that I think are uncommon. One, if you're writing fiction, there's really no difference between fiction and reality. Like, there's the disclaimer in the front cover of every book that's like, the events in this book are entirely fictional, blah, 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 blah. That's mostly crap. I used to kind of feel like I had to keep a safe distance between my life and my writing, and like my fictional world and my real world. And as I've let those two get closer together, it's just been so much better. Whenever you talk to any writer, pretty much they'll be like, yeah, like, it's like we're all Taylor Swift and we're all writing our feelings, even though it's technically fiction. So don't, like, feel like there has to be this 10-foot wall between, you know, your real life experiences and your fictional. Like, nobody's gonna question your creativity. Nobody's gonna, especially if you write fantasy. Like, I write fantasy. Like, obviously anything I write is gonna be drastically different from real life. It's just, you know, in conflicts and characters and certain, like, experiences where maybe there will be some similarities, but you never know how noticeable those similarities will be. Like, don't just get, like, obsessed with it. Like, just let what happens happens. If you feel like you need to write out your feelings, definitely write out your feelings. The one thing that will stifle my creativity the most is thinking about people I know in real life reading it. Don't think about that at all. Especially when you're young. Like, I graduated high school and I don't talk to most of the people I went to high school with. It does not matter. If you're feeling something, just write it. Like, don't worry about it being good. That was so hard for me to listen to when I was younger because I'm such a perfectionist. And I've had to let go of a lot of those feelings of always having to be perfect. Like, you just gotta let yourself write. Just let it flow, and you can always go back and edit it. And the last thing I want to say is read. That's a common piece of advice. Just read. Just read all the time. Your writing will suck if you don't read. Like, sometimes I'm like, oh, but I'm so tired, I might fall asleep if I read, or blah, 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 blah. Like, no, I have to read. If I'm not reading a book, my writing just sucks. Definitely challenge yourself. Like, don't, like, lately, I'm not reading YA because, actually, no, that's a lie. I am reading YA, but only by authors I trust. Challenge yourself in your reading just as you should challenge yourself in your writing. Step out of your comfort zone in your reading, although a lot of that will happen naturally with school if you're young. Like, just listen to what you like and listen to what interests you. And just follow that, and soon you'll emerge a better writer. Wow. Just go out there, read, write. Don't take yourself too seriously. Just enjoy this time because you can grow so much. I grew more in the first year I was writing my novel than I've ever grown. I would definitely recommend finding a community of writers online, no matter what the website is. Like, I've moved around from Wattpad to, like, really small websites to Tumblr. Just find anyone that you love to read and that will read your writing, and kind of, like, right now for me, that community is in poetry on Tumblr and fan fiction on AO3, just because I don't really post, like, long works of fiction, just because I am at the age, finally, where I'm thinking about future publication. Find a community of writers, or in your physical community. Like, I know that libraries have writing groups. There are, I live in the Northeast, so I don't know how many of these there actually are, but I go to a writing center sometimes. It's like a guild, pretty much. You need to have people who will give you criticism and who you can give criticism. Because, like I said, that's very important. That's today's video. Like I said, I have those other videos planned. And thank you for being here, I guess. Like, I hope you liked this video. And if you did, leave a thumbs up and subscribe. That's what YouTubers say. Oh my god. I don't know what I'm doing. I hope you have a wonderful day. I need to, like, have a slogan. A lot of YouTubers like end their videos saying the same thing. Thanks for watching. Oh my god, I'm terrible. I'm gonna lose like all the subscribers I just got. Follow me on Tumblr and Twitter, only if you like listening to what I say. If you don't, obviously don't. I don't know if I'll have time to post. I'll try to post again this week. Yeah, because I don't know if I'll have any time after college starts. Like, once school starts, we'll see. I'm gonna be a freshman. Okay, so again, tell me, like, if you liked this video, if you agree, disagree with me, and if you're a young writer, I hope this helped you. I'll see you later.